Since the release of Marvel Rivals almost 1 year ago now, Overwatch has constantly been put in the hot seat on whether it's improved, stayed stagnant, or gotten even worse since the release of its biggest competitor. So in this video, I want to sit here and discuss whether the game has actually improved or it's gotten worse. And we're going to actually do that by looking at proper data and having some real talking points in this video. But before we get into that, make sure to hit that subscribe real quick, and if you like this video, and let's get on into it. Overwatch came out almost 10 years ago, and since then it's not really had too much competition unless you count Paladins, which we know how that's going. But since Overwatch hasn't really had much competition throughout its lifespan, it hasn't really been influenced through competition with other game titles. So with the release of Marvel Rivals, which was back in December of 2024, Overwatch has now been put in the hot seat on whether it's been improving or getting worse. And that's been really critical by the community on the devs and on whether they've actually been improving or not. So to visualize this, I've made two graphs displaying the Overwatch patch data that is kind of arbitrary, but we're going to go through that really quickly. The first graph I have here displays 2024 versus 2025 patch data. Basically, what this is displaying is the kind of patches and how many patches we were getting in 2024 versus 2025. 2024 is labeled in blue, 2025 is in orange. Two things to keep in mind with this is that the small content and large content, what's considered small is if 3 heroes are altered versus large is 3 and above. Bug fixes don't have any hero adjustments at all, and that's something to consider when looking at this. Another thing to consider is we're not talking about any hero playtest, so any new hero playtest will not be considered as a patch, and any quick play updates such as quick play hacked will not be considered into this, since that's a little bit more smaller. It doesn't really come with a lot of patch changes. It's simply just a small gameplay change that they add here and there, and that's something that I just didn't want to consider when looking at this. So do keep in mind that this can be fairly arbitrary. You can see some different lists, but that's how I'm presenting it. So when we look at this, we can see bug fixes are very high compared to 2024 as they are in 2025. As you can see, we're getting more small content patches, and we're getting a little bit more large content patches depending on the way you view it. One thing that we have to consider when looking at 2025 is that when we're looking at 2025, we also have to remember that in spring of 2025, Overwatch released its biggest new game mode, Stadium. Stadium is a complete revamp of the Overwatch gameplay, giving us a brand new third-person perspective and some crazy shit on top of that, bro. We got League of Legends items. We got some absolutely goofy comps you can make. It's insane. And Stadium actually has an entirely own dev team. That's how serious these guys at Blizzard are about this. So when we look at that, we got to consider that. So to help visualize this, our second graph is actually going to display no Stadium 2025 patch notes. I considered when making this graph that we will not be looking at any 2025 Stadium changes. So that includes just completely ignoring Stadium. This can make the results a little bit skewed, so do keep that in mind. Again, these are a little bit arbitrary, but that's basically the criteria that I made when looking at this. Now, it's great to be able to visualize this patch note data, but what does that actually mean in terms of the content we are getting? It doesn't mean shit if 2024 we're getting crazy jumps, we're getting insane good characters, we're getting insane new skins or whatever. And 2025 we just have a ton of bug fixes that don't actually mean anything, and large content patches don't mean anything as much as 2024. So we're gonna actually have to look at the content. So looking at the content in 2024, we got 3 heroes, Venture, Juno, Hazard, and we got the Pharah rework. We also got a bunch of the collabs events, but the core things to be looking at is we got a new game mode in Clash. Let's be honest, that shit kind of sucks ass. We got Overwatch Classic, and then we got the hitbox, and we got the HP changes that are really necessary in 2024 for balance. And then we also got 6v6 role queue. Compare this to 2025, however, we got a lot of good things in 2025. We got the regular events we normally got. We got some collab skins. We got 3 new heroes just the same as last year. We got Freya, Wu Yang, and Vendetta, which releases later this year. By the time this video is released, Vendetta should have come out. And we got the fat fuck Hog rework. They finally threw Hog on his Epic, and they realized, man, that rework did not work. Look at that! What? So they reverted them back to whatever bullshit state. This character will forever stay unbalanced. We got a new map, we got Atlas for Flashpoint, and we also got regular Flashpoint changes in the maps. But the biggest things that need to be talked about with 2025 are loot boxes and perks. Now, a big thing with Overwatch, and that's personally with my opinion as well, is that Overwatch gets stale very quickly. I've been playing Overwatch since the 2015 open beta, or was it 2016? Damn. Perks really gave Overwatch a new, fresh sense of identity. It allowed returning players to have something new to try out and something to cling to, and it gave newcoming players something to really embrace and something to really have fun with. Perks are fantastic, especially because Overwatch is already quite a simple game in some kind of ways compared to games like League of Legends, right? In terms of there aren't as many layers. So adding this extra layer of complexity allows the Overwatch team to alter more things to kind of change up the experience. Look at League of Legends, for example. Very often, if you haven't played League, at the end of the year, they like to really switch up that game. Riot Games loves to switch up League and add new things, take away things, and really switch up the complexity of it. And that's because the game is so complex. League is such a complex game. So adding that to Overwatch really allows for more complexity and more diversity in terms of how the devs can change it and how the players can play it. It is a fantastic addition, and it's probably one of the most notable things that they've added to the game in a very, very long time. And this is compiled with Stadium, which is its entire own thing. Like I said previously, Stadium is so unique and so different. It has its own entire team dedicated to Stadium. If you look at the patch notes, some patch notes are entirely Stadium. There are no regular Overwatch gameplay changes for competitive. It can just be entire Stadium changes. And whether you think that's a positive or a negative, I think that's a positive in general for the content of the game and for the average Overwatch player to really breathe new life. Hero bands are a fantastic addition to Overwatch, and the fact that it took Rivals to add it for Overwatch to adopt it as well is pretty hilarious, especially considering the fact of how beneficial it has been for the experience of competitive. Map selection is also a great addition. Why are these inbreds voting for Blizzard World? It allows us to avoid, especially at high elo where a lot of players don't really like to play escort and hybrid maps. It allows us to get faster games and allows the community to really show what maps are enjoyable and what maps need to be tweaked. So without looking at it entirely face value and actually going into what each year provided for us as a community of Overwatch players, we can clearly see 2025 just brought in such new life to the game. And I think that really shows with the health of the game. For the first time in Overwatch's history, if you ask a lot of players, you can see that there's a lot more life being breathed into the game. A lot more content creators are blowing up. Overwatch esports is seeing peaks that it's never seen before. There's always going to be some dumbass who doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, whose heart's stuck, complaining on Twitter. But if we look at it from a general consensus, I think most of us can agree the game is in a really solid spot. Do I think the game's entirely perfect? Hell nah. They really got to fucking kill Hog. Like, seriously. But the game is really much more enjoyable to play. If you don't like competitive, you got 20 more things you can do. You can hop in arcade mode. You can hop in quick play. You can go into custom game modes. You can go play Stadium. There's so much stuff to do. The game is so saturated with content. It is amazing. Do I think 2024 was a bad year for Overwatch? Not necessarily. They still added stuff. It wasn't that in 2024 was entirely negated. But 2025 is very, very beneficial for the game. And do I think a lot of that is attributed to Rivals? Partially, yes. Majority of the community and the consensus around it is that Rivals really got the Overwatch dev team to really lock in on what was important. So that included finally adding hero bans, finally adding map select, finally adding something to not make the gameplay as stale, maybe some hero progression, a new entire game mode. It's entirely crazy to look at. We also got some more collabs. I didn't even mention the collaborations we got. A lot of people enjoy the cosmetics in this game, despite the fact that they're overpriced as hell. Like, god damn. The game is in a really good spot right now, and for the future of this game, I believe this is the best future that Overwatch has seen since 2018. And there are still discussions to be had whether Overwatch is in a fantastic spot. Obviously, there's still the 6v6 versus 5v5 discussion. You can possibly see that in the new video. Hit that subscribe if you want to see that video. But if you really think about it, the game is in a fantastic spot personally. Let me know what you think in the comments, of course. If you appreciated this content and you like what you're seeing here and you enjoy my perspective on this kind of stuff and the kind of objectivity and the opinionative basis that I have on my kind of thing, please come check me out. You can check me out on Twitch. I'm live every week, 6 to 8 p.m. we get our start MST time. Check me out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.com, you know what I'm saying, or X, whatever the fuck bullshit you like to call it. If you like this video, but let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know. I'm gonna respond on down there. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bang!